and personal loans. Desert Financial Credit Union is located at 300 North Beeline Highway inside Walmart, and their number is 602-433-7000.
And a big thank you to Desert Financial Credit Union for sponsoring our KRIM Community Spotlight program. Good morning, Rim Country. Chris Higgins in the studio this morning at the Sawmill Theater Complex. Hope you're enjoying sunny weather today. That's right, a little different than yesterday and Sunday, and it's a beautiful morning out there. So a lot of things happening this week, and it looks like we're going to have beautiful weather for all those activities. Well, this morning in the studio, we have members from the gardening community here in the studio to talk about a garden education extravaganza taking place on April 13th at the Payson Community Garden. In the studio this morning, we have Susan Miller-Hoover with the Payson Community Garden. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning.
Also, Rich Johnson with the High Country Garden Club and Master Gardener. Good morning, Rich.
Hello, everybody.
And Chris Jones, Gila County Cooperative Extension Agent from U of A. Good morning, Chris.
Good to be here.
Hey, thank you so much for coming up. You came up from
Globe.
From Globe?
Yeah, I am assigned to the county. Been here for the past 25 years. So
nice. Well, thank you for coming up today, coming in to do our Community Spotlight program and to share about this garden education extravaganza. Tell us a little bit about the event.
yeah, the event will be, as you said, April 13. We invite people to come to the Payson Community Garden around 9 a.m. The extravaganza will begin at 9:30, and we've got 4 speakers who are going to talk to you about companion planting. So many people interested on what to grow, what likes each other, you know, so, you know, basil and tomatoes, but maybe something else. Another talk on seed starting and how to make that fun or easy, irrigation, and composting. And so really it's the gardening basics and helping, and even if you're an expert or you're new to gardening, please come to our event.
Gotcha. So this event is a free event. There's no charge, and everyone really is welcome. Anyone that has an interest in gardening, is that correct?
Correct. It's free and open to the public, so
All right.
please come.
Yeah, and there'll be food and drinks. Also, those are the presenters, but I imagine there'll be people from the Payson Community Garden, the High Country Garden Club, and others there that have experience with planting. So you have an opportunity to probably talk to a lot of people.
Right, and you know, that reminded me, I should give those presenters an opportunity to be recognized. All your presenters are Gila County Master Gardeners. The Master Gardener program is something I run through the Cooperative Extension Office. I've been teaching gardening classes through the community college for the past 25 years. And so I have a class planned for the fall, so look for that, probably on Wednesday, I think it'll be Wednesdays or Tuesdays. And so Clyde Gable is one of our Master Gardeners. He runs a farm in Gysela. Again, interested in all kinds of things, gardening, but this companion planting, what to grow together so that they're more successful. Rich Johnson, who we have with us, excellent seed starter. Tell you all about how he starts the seeds, how you'll be successful doing it. Ron Kelsa works with Clyde down in Gysela, has the farm. He'll talk about how to irrigate. Our summer comes, all our plants need water. And finally, Michelle McDaniel, sorry Michelle, is going to talk to us on how to compost. And our soils are poor. We don't put some compost in the ground, the plants don't get what they need.
When you say poor, not very nutrient rich, is it?
Exactly. We lack organic matter, nitrogen, the nutrients that plants need to grow.
Wow. So Rich, you're going to be presenting on seed starting, and I like the title, The Fun Way, versus the non-fun way. I would imagine probably the fun way is a successful way where you have success with the seeds.
Yes, there are definitely some tips and tricks that you need to know about starting seeds, and if you don't know those basics, you're probably going to have a really frustrating time with the whole process. And so it's a really good thing to learn how to do it right from the beginning. And that way, like I said, like you just said, you'll have success and you'll feel like you know what you're doing. And when it comes time to actually plant that seedling in the ground, you'll be ready to go. You'll have a seedling that's up big enough and ready to go in the ground by about May 15th, which is is our last frost date. And that'll be a really good feeling to know that you put that plant start in the ground yourself and grew it from seed.
Wow. Now this is taking place again at the Payson Community Garden, which is on Tyler Parkway. And Susan, how long have you been involved with the Payson Community Garden?
I've been involved for 6 years.
6 years, huh?
The garden's been around for 13.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sit on the board and we make all kinds of contributions to the community. We have donated over 10,000 pounds of food to the food banks here in town.
Wow.
In 1 year, we average about 8,000 pounds a year. All of our gardeners give at least 20% of what they grow in their gardens, so we can help people of Payson.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's great. How many spots and gardeners do you have in the Payson Community Garden?
We have 201 gardens, 3 different sizes. So I would say we probably have close to 200 gardeners because people share and work their gardens. So we have some for handicapped people, we have some for people that can't work a really big garden. So our 3 sizes works for just about everybody.
Wow, that is great. So again, I found over the years that gardeners love to share with others and maybe people that are newer to gardening. So I imagine a lot of the gardeners will be out for this event.
Right, the garden opens at 8 o'clock on that Saturday morning and goes till 3 o'clock, and the majority of our gardeners will be there, most of our staff will be there. There'll be plenty of people to ask questions of, and you know, what you don't get from the education part, you can get from the gardeners that are there, and certainly walk around and see what we have growing.
Great. Again, we're talking about the Garden Education Extravaganza, and this takes place April 13th, starting at the presentation, start at 9:30 and go until approximately noon. So you want to get there a little early so you can be ready for the first presentation at 9:30. The Payson Community Garden is located at 300 East Tyler Parkway here in Payson. So if you head north on 87, you go to the circle, the roundabout by Home Depot. Just take a right there on Tyler Parkway and you'll see the community garden on the north side or the left-hand side of Tyler Parkway. So Rich, wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Payson Apple Orchard, and there's been a lot of activity recently at the orchard. Could you maybe give us an update on that?
Yes, the Payson Apple Orchard is a project that started around 7-8 years ago, thereabouts. The then mayor of Payson, Mr. Schwartwood, started this project and got the community involved. A lot of money was donated. The thing got started, especially when Glenn from Plant Fair Nursery donated all the trees that went into it. So we're talking about 55 to 60 trees right in that area. And so he donated the trees. We got in there. Well, I wasn't involved at that time, but it got started. All the things were planted. Irrigation system was put in. Everything was up and running. And then Schwartwood, was voted out at some point, and things just kind of fell by the wayside. Now the trees did get watered, so they lived. They're still living, but they've not done nearly as well as they should have during that time frame. And so about 5 years ago, Chris got us involved there. The Master Gardener program got involved in there, and we started grafting the trees that were from the heritage apple orchards all around this whole Payson area, including stretching out even into down to Geisela Way and out Young Way. And anyway, we started taking scion cuttings from those trees and grafting them into the apple orchard. That was the whole premise behind the project from the beginning, was to basically save these heritage apple trees because they are dying by inches. Some of them are as much as 140 years old.
Wow.
So they're dying. I mean, they're not barely hanging in there. No one's paying attention to them. In some cases, they're just out in the woods by themselves where a homestead used to be, but nothing is there now. So at any rate, the activity that's been going on most recently is we've gotten hooked up with one of the landscaping type groups, and they're dumping all their wood chips and stuff in the orchard for us so that can then spread them out around. We've created water wells, extended water wells around the trees. They're now 6 feet in diameter instead of the past 18 inches or whatever they were. So we're hoping that by increasing the area of the irrigation, which is the other part that we are expanding, these trees should get a nice wide watering and thereby stretch their roots out and start to grow the way they should. So that's been the activity of late.
Wow, and can one of you, Rich or Chris, explain to listeners and people watching, maybe they've heard the term grafting, but they don't know exactly what it is. Can you explain just what grafting is?
Grafting is when you take a desirable fruit or bloom and you are able to attach it to a rootstock, a plant, and doing it the right time of year in the spring, the cambium, the branches will join together, and it becomes part of that tree, and then you get the fruit you want. And so just about everything that you get at the store is going to be a grafted fruit.
Okay, yeah. So that's crazy to think, 140 years. Some of these apple trees are, you said, Rich, 140 years old.
Yeah, some of them go back to the 1880s. The earliest settlers came in, and one of the things that they prized most was growing apple trees, partially for themselves, but they also had a market for it. They traveled as far as up to Flagstaff to sell apples. It was quite an ordeal when it got started. It was a real big thing, and again, it was a self-sustaining thing for them. I mean, they wouldn't live if they didn't have a constant supply of food, and that was one of their foods, one of their main foods. So it worked out well for them.
Wow, that's pretty cool that then with this orchard, we'll be able to continue, those lines of apple trees.
Yeah, that was the whole premise behind the whole thing. It was Dave the garden guy who had that weekend, Dave Owens, who had that show on. Shortwood was watching one of those shows, and he learned about it, and that's what sparked the whole thing. And so we are basically trying to save, if you will, those old apple trees.
Well, I remember Dave Owens presenting as well to the town and talking about it, and he's a fun guy. He's very energetic and passionate. Yeah, that's exciting. So again, the Garden Education Extravaganza. One of the things that we want to focus on today. This is a free event taking place April 13th from 9:30 to noon at the Payson Community Garden. That's 300 East Tyler Parkway, and the presenters that will be there talking about companion planting in a garden, seed starting the fun way. That's with Rich Johnson. Ram Khalsa, Easy Irrigation, Michelle McDaniel, Composting Made Easy, and again that was Clyde Gable that's talking about companion planting in the garden. Maybe can we talk about companion planting in the garden just a little? And Chris's eyes got big, and not in great detail, but it's something maybe that a lot of people don't think about. What plants do better together and can thrive or help each other grow instead of fighting against each other, maybe, and making it harder to be successful.
Yeah, kind of the gist of it is just what you said. It helps if you have two particular types of plants growing together. They can, I'll say, symbiotic. They can do some things for each other. They don't actually live touching each other, but they are doing some things like Chris mentioned the tomatoes and basil. Well, the basil puts out a smell, if you will, that kind of keeps some bugs away from the tomatoes. So there's an example. Another example of a way to be companionish is to have a strawberry patch, but if you don't have, in addition to that, some flowering plants nearby, the strawberries, even though they put out a flower and they attract bees, if you have these other plants nearby, I'm talking in between rows, you're going to attract a lot more bees. And so you're going to be sure that you get a much better yield from your strawberry patch. So that's just two examples of companion planting.
And if you come out to the garden, you'll see our butterfly garden that we have.
Okay.
That has pollinators, it's bringing bees and everything in. We encourage the gardeners to plant different plants. Lavender will get rid of the potato bugs, and squash bugs, which are a nemesis. Because
Squash bugs.
squash bugs.
They are bad, not good.
Oh, they're ugly.
Oh,
They're
boy, the
bad.
face, Susan, yeah.
Oh.
They're bad.
They're
Okay.
very bad.
And are they just, because of the name, are they attracted to squash mainly, or
To nightshades.
nightshades?
And, it's a family of.
Oh, okay.
Cougars.
Yes. So anyway, they're little ugly bugs that come up from, they are ugly, I'm
Okay.
telling you.
Well,
Yeah.
they're bugs, even their mothers don't,
Oh,
don't think
no,
they're
no,
good.
nobody thinks.
Nobody,
no.
wow.
And if you
okay.
water, they come out of the garden
Uh-huh.
much more and they climb on your plants and
Mm.
they deposit their eggs underneath the leaves and then
Uh-huh.
these little spidery looking things come out and eat your plant.
My, okay.
Oh, they're horrid. So we go around with little bottles of soapy water and pull them off and drown them.
Okay. You don't mess
squish
around,
them.
Susan.
No,
I'll tell
and
you
we
what.
squish
Okay.
the eggs. So, yeah, we don't like them at all.
Good. You don't have to ask the permission of the city to do
No,
that.
no.
No.
So you can just take those guys out,
Oh,
take them out.
We take them out as much as possible because they are really nasty.
Yeah, that's a bug that literally just sucks the juices right out of a plant, and it'll kill the plant
Mhm.
one
Wow.
time. And that's how it does it. It just sticks a probe, it's proboscis right into the plant, starts sucking the juice out, and that just, if it keeps on doing that and you get enough of them, it will kill the plant.
Mm. So, takes all the juices, the water, all the moisture out of the
Everything.
plant. That's another topic that's going to be discussed, easy irrigation, where if you're coming to Arizona, I know I came here in '89 from Pennsylvania, the land of much water. I guess back east, up north, irrigation was something that you really didn't see a lot of. Some fields, sod farm. I had an uncle that had a sod farm, so obviously sprinklers out there. But as far as gardens, most of my family in New Jersey, so the Garden State, didn't remember any irrigation. Never even saw a bubbler or a drip system. Didn't know what a drip system was. Totally foreign. So you come out to Arizona, boy, it's a little bit different out here. So irrigation is obviously very, very important. So there will be a talk on that as well, I see.
Yes, and there are numerous ways to irrigate a bed. I mean, it's not like there's just one way does it all. And everybody will have their own preference, and one of the things that Ron will explain is the many different ways to do it. And there are many ways, so you'll have a choice. It's not like you have to do it one way. So he'll give lots of good suggestions.
And the garden is just in the process of putting in a totally new automatic watering system.
Wow.
We
Okay.
have put in 10 electric timers, thank you. And last year we put in a weather station, and it hooks up to Weather Underground, and it takes the humidity and the temperature and the moisture in the ground and tells us whether we need to water or not. So we've hooked it up to our system, and in 15-minute rotations, we'll water and then move on to the next and move on to the next. Now, if it had rained like
Mhm.
yesterday, the system won't come on, it won't water. And
Wow.
if it is really, really hot and dry,
Uh-huh.
it will water more.
Mm-hmm.
So we are really excited about it. It's one of the first that I've seen, and so come out and look and talk to us about it. Our water guys are really excited. So, it's just one more way of irrigation, but it's totally automatic.
Wow, that sounds pretty advanced.
It is.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
That is great. Again, this is all happening at the Garden Education Extravaganza, April 13th from 9:30 a.m. to noon. You want to get there a little bit early though. Presentations start at 9:30, and the community garden is at 300 East Tyler Parkway. One of the last presentations is composting made easy. And again, very important because as you mentioned, Chris, the soil here in Arizona just does not have the nutrients and what is needed to
Right.
create healthy plants for the most part.
So we need to create our own soil to be able to have a garden in most of Arizona.
Mhm.
And so you would be able to be taking leaves, hay, whatever type of dry, material that you're able to use for a carbon, and then you also need another nitrogen source, which is often kitchen scraps or manure that you're able to use. The horse manure works very well. Mix those two together, the microbes will start breaking that down and turning it into what we call humus, which is organic matter that has all the nutrients in it in a form that the plants can take advantage of and use. And mixing that into the soil, how you can be successful. And I appreciate the whole discussion we just had on the irrigation. Water is such a precious resource here in Arizona. So there may be lots of ways to water. You can just flood irrigate, but that just uses a lot of water. So we do a lot of drip irrigation to conserve as much water as possible and still be successful gardeners.
I remember grandparents' farm, they had a chicken farm and chicken manure.
Yeah.
Great fertilizer, but very high in nitrogen, nitrates, so you could actually burn, soil, so it would have to be spread out, not as generously as cow or horse, I imagine.
And so rather than putting that directly onto the crop or your field, you're going to put it into your compost pile, and that'll break down with your carbon sources, and that way it neutralizes it. A good humic, compost is going to have a neutral pH.
Neutral, okay. And then, and I'm sorry if you mentioned this, but the different items that can be put in, scraps, vegetable peelings, coffee grounds, is that another item that can be put in?
Coffee grounds are an excellent source of nitrogen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can definitely put it in. Rich is really a master composter. He's got piles all over his place and just.
What? So if people are, listening, watching, think, well, does that really smell? Does the compost, does it smell? Is that an issue?
It depends on what you're using for your green material. If you're
Okay.
using a lot of manure as your main green
Yeah.
material, it will smell for a little while.
Okay,
But if you cover it, like you should,
okay.
in between stirrings, and you have to do that fairly frequently, about once a week, as long as you cover it in between, that smell is very minimal. When you uncover it and you stir it, the smell will come up for a little while, then you cover it again and it goes away. But after just a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, that smell is pretty much gone entirely. Even when you're uncovered, it's mostly gone. So.
And if people want to look at a compost pile, we started composting at the garden last year. This year, our compost didn't cook as well as it needed, so it's still it's still in its breaking down stages. But there's a big pile of that. We also make mushroom compost. I think you guys use some down in Gazille.
Yeah, it's wrong, yes.
Yeah. And the Payson mushroom farmers here give us all of their leftovers after they pick up the mushrooms to sell. And we mix it with manure and sand and dirt, and it makes a great amendment to break up the clay in your soil and stuff like that. And I do have to give a shout out to the regional ranchers because they bring us horse manure and put it outside the garden, and we turn it and let it compost, and then we bring it in, and our gardeners are using those 3 different kinds of compost. So anybody that comes to the extravaganza can come in back and look at what we have and get an idea of how the compost smells and that kind of thing.
Wow. Rich, I want to ask you, depending on the plants and what you're growing, will that maybe dictate what you want to put in your compost? Or, I guess, is there a specific compost for certain plants, or is not really?
It's pretty generic.
It's pretty generic.
Yeah, it's pretty generic. You're gonna make one big batch and it's gonna have whatever inputs you put into it, whatever was available, pretty much. The quick and dirty on compost is you need a whole bunch of brown material, which is the dead, dry, previously alive plant matter, so dead leaves, dry leaves. Then you need a bunch of green material, and you can use green leaves for that. And of course, all your kitchen scraps, anything that is real recently alive and still has its moisture. And then you're going to need water and air and volume. You have to do this in volume in order to make it work. If you try to do this in a 5-gallon bucket, it'll work, but maybe not in your lifetime. So, so be sure you do it in volume. That's what allows the microbes to do their thing well enough, to heat the process up enough to make the really good microbes get a chance to do their job.
Wow.
And that's what breaks it all down.
All right. And so with the Payson Community Garden, Susan, if people wanted more information or to find out more, is there a website, or you just recommend people coming out to the garden when it's open?
We have a website. It's PaysonCommunityGarden.com.
Okay.
We have a Facebook presence that gives all of the classes that we have given over the years.
Oh, okay.
And then Instagram,
Instagram.
thank you. I have something against that, I just can't remember. We have that, but we do encourage people to come out to the garden and take a look around and talk to us. And right now, we're full.
Mm-hmm.
And but we have a wait list already for more
Okay.
people to come in. And as the season goes, life gets in the way and we may have extra gardens.
Okay.
So, but yeah, the PaysonCommunityGarden.com.
All right. And how about the High Country Garden Club, Rich? If people were interested in joining the club, learning more about the club, and I know the club is very active in taking care of different facilities and working with different nonprofits around town, aren't they?
Yes, this club has been around since 1997, so we're well heeled in this area. And of course, we have been active doing, as you said, city beautification. So we've done a number of things, including a little bit of a garden that's right in front of the visitor center out there. We've done some of the plantings along the American Gulch out here, down where the Payson Apple Orchard is, in that vicinity. And worked with some other, as you said, some nonprofits doing some plantings. The new plantings that are right in front of the library as you walk in, those were done by us.
Nice.
And so we've been very active in that kind of thing. We meet once a month, the first Thursday of the month, at Mount Cross Lutheran Church, which is just up the street from Safeway. And so anybody's invited. You don't have to be a member. Just come on down at 5:30, and we have a presentation. We always have a speaker, so we learn something new about gardening. And we also, some of our proceeds, which come from our only fundraiser, which is coming up on May 4th, we will have, as a Saturday morning. We always do it once a year. It's our own, as I said, our only fundraiser. And we sell all sorts of plants, from perennials to herbs to vegetables to xeriscape, all kinds of stuff, indoor plants, the whole bit. And so we sell a lot of stuff that way, so please come down to that. It's from 7 o'clock to noon that morning, May 4th. And we also, from the proceeds from that, that's where we are able to fund our city beautification stuff, and we also contribute quite a bit to students in need right here in Payson. So our money gets plowed back into the community.
And we're going to have you back on our Community Spotlight again, and other members from the High Country Garden Club to talk more about the club and what the club does and that sale, to highlight that as well. So really look forward to that. And Chris, how you mentioned earlier in the program, people that are interested in that Master Gardener program, what are maybe some prerequisites? Are there prerequisites for that?
No, there's no prerequisite. I believe I'll be teaching the class Tuesday afternoons at the Payson Community College.
Okay.
And the class fills up. It's a pretty popular class in town. It's 16 weeks, 3-hour classes, and we go from basic botany, soils, and then we really start getting into the practical stuff that people want to know about gardening, fruit trees, and I also keep a class on how to firewise. You know, just try to make it local what we deal with here. Weeds, whole class on weeds.
Wow, and with all this moisture we've been getting,
Yeah.
there will be a lot of weeds, won't there? Yeah, that's one of the things. We love seeing all the rain, all the moisture, but they do produce monster weeds. Yeah.
Yeah, pull them out.
Forget about. Well, again, everyone in the community is invited to the Garden Education Extravaganza, and that takes place April 13th from 9:30 a.m. to noon. Again, 9:30 is when the presentation starts. So you want to get there a little bit early if you can. I believe the community garden opens up at 8
Correct.
that morning. And the community garden is located at 300 East Tyler Parkway. So again, just a lot of great information out there and a lot of wonderful people that are willing to share all of their planting tips and secrets with you. So again, it should be a great event. Well, thank you so much, Susan, Rich, and Chris, for coming on this morning and sharing.
Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Hey, well, it's time to get back to the music now with some Howard Jones, Florence and the Machine, and Aha. But first, let's get a quick update from our National Weather Service.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for allowing us to do this.
Oh, you're so welcome.